Hey there, my name is Morgan. I'm talking to you about traveling across the country in a car to get to Burning Man, as opposed to the other alternative, which is flying and taking, say, the Burner Express bus. So you see here before you a map of the U.S., and here we are in North Carolina, me and Carrie. And here's this nice, long, lovely drive from Cary to Black Rock City in Nevada. Alrighty. 2,700 miles, give or take a bit. Actually, you'll have to add a little bit to that because there'll be a little bit of extra driving, as always there is. Estimated around 41 hours to do. It's a long ways. So let's talk about the cost effectiveness of this approach. All right, so we've got 2,700 miles to drive one way. Let's just focus on the cost of gas. Now, I drive a Mini Cooper that happens to get about 35 miles to the gallon on the highway when I'm, driving modestly and decently. And at $3 a gallon, because I have to use the premium, and this is COVID prices, it's more expensive when COVID's not happening because people are driving more. It comes out to basically $500, $470, but really, gas gets more expensive as you get across the country and get out towards the West Coast. And so really it's looking at around $500 for me to drive by myself across the country in my Mini Cooper. If you drive in a truck, it's getting, say, 20 miles to the gallon, but able to take advantage of the cheaper prices of regular gas. $550, maybe $575 for you to get across the country in your truck. If your truck happens to get 25 miles to the gallon, then it has a big impact on price right there. Just that extra 5 miles to the gallon, that would save you over $100. So, something to pay attention to with your truck there. And let's say you got the best case scenario. You've got a car, it gets 35 miles to the gallon. Maybe you're even driving a Prius. It's even higher. Hey, great for you if it is a Prius. Using regular gas instead of premium. 300, we'll say 350 at most on gas to get across the country. Driving just by yourself. All right, that's round trip both ways. That's 2,733 miles times 2 divided by your miles per gallon, 35 times 3 for your price gives you, boom, respective prices we see here. What do we have to stack that against? If you fly right now, a round trip ticket to Reno, I just looked it up on one of the sites for doing this sort of thing on, and they said it was about $360, which I figure after taxes and stuff, you're looking at about $400 for your round trip ticket to Reno. And the Burner Express bus is from Reno to the Playa and back. Is going to be about, I think it's $83 is what it was listed as starting at for 2020. So we're going to estimate about $200 for the round trip there. So that was $83 just one way. So you're looking at about $600 just for you to get to and from the Playa if you're using the flying and the Burner Express bus. So if you're driving, that's what you got to compare against. All right, and on gas, it's looking pretty good on pretty much all three accounts. We can make this a lot better. We're going to see a little later that you need to make this a lot better because if you're just driving by yourself, there's some other costs that you might not be thinking about that are going to kind of screw you over. So if you have another person with you, you can cut all of these costs in half. So this is definitely, if you're going to drive across country, it's something to do with the second person. It's going to save you a butt ton of money at the end of the day. Driving by yourself, really expensive. We'll see later. It's actually going to be cost prohibitive compared to driving or taking the plane and the bus. But if you've got another person, then it starts to become a little bit more cost feasible. So there's another factor we need to take into consideration if we're going to be driving across the country, and that is just how freaking long it takes to get across the country. 2,733 miles. If you're averaging 70 miles per hour and you're going to get there in 3 days, you're looking at 13-hour days driving. 13-hour days. That's insane. That's a lot of driving. Truckers will do that, but generally not you. You're not going to be used to that. You're not going to be ready for it. If you've got a second person with you, it starts to become a little bit more reasonable, feasible, because you can split it up. If you're hauling ass and you're able to average around 80 miles an hour on actual driving on the road time, you're still looking at close to 11 and a half hours on the road driving. You're going to have to stop. You're going to have to sleep. Now, if you're driving an SUV, then you might be able to save the price of, excuse me, stopping at hotels by sleeping in the back of your vehicle. If that's you, great, super wonderful. If your fellow passenger doesn't mind getting cozy with you like that, if you don't mind foregoing showers for a couple of days before you get to the playa and after you get off the playa, great. That's an option. If you're in a car, you're going to need to stop and either rent some tenting space for camping or stay in some hotels. Now, staying in hotels, you're looking at, let's look at this. Cary to, we'll say Kansas City, and say that's your first stop point for argument's sake. That's one night right here. Another day of driving, and you stop somewhere out here in Wyoming maybe. That's your second night right there. And then you drive and you spend your third night in Black Rock City. So you've got 2 nights on the road going. But then when you're returning, it gets a little extra hairy, because the thing is once you come off the playa, after you spent maybe about a week, 6 days or 7 days on the playa. Once you get off that playa, the last thing you're going to want to do is spend fucking 13 hours in a car driving 3 days straight to get back across the country. What you're really going to want to do is take a day off the playa and get a hotel room somewhere. Maybe head over towards Lake Tahoe and find yourself a place. Maybe set your reservation up ahead of time if you're smart. Chill out on the banks of Lake Tahoe and just get the initial phase of decompression done and out of the way. Because, man, when you get off that playa, no matter how good you've done taking care of yourself, you're going to be fucking tired. You're going to be really fucking tired. And you're going to be dehydrated, and you're going to be hungry, and you're going to want to fucking shower with real water, hot water, real soap. Oh my God, you're going to want all of those things. And your passenger's going to want all of those things too. And so planning on taking your first day off the playa to just chill the fuck out somewhere and relax and breathe and maybe hang out in some slightly less harsh versions of nature will be greatly beneficial. And then you begin the 3-day journey back home. So you're looking at about 5 nights in hotels if you're going to drive cross country and back. 2 nights on the way there, 3 nights on the way back. If you're staying at Motel 6, that sort of thing, which is what I would do, if, we're going for budget here, then you're still looking at around $60 a night. I did that math right here. I'll reveal that now. So $60 a night, 5 nights. If it's just you by yourself, $300 for the whole trip on just hotels. And if you happen to have another person with you, then you've got $150 for the trip. There are 2 other things that have not been factored in here cost-wise. One is food. You should probably expect about $20 a day per person on food. Maybe you can get it down to less than that. Maybe you can actually even get it down to $10 a day per person on food if you're really savvy. But you're definitely going to expect to have to spend some money on food because you're going to be eating on the road. And that's going to be, 7 days, a full week of eating on the road. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, and then 3 days going back, plus that extra 7th day to just chill out after the burn and, not be as crazy and get a little bit of decompression out. Emotionally, you're going to need that too, by the way, not just physically. So there's the food cost, which, let's see, is this the right one? I think that's the right one. Yes, that's it. Boop. Which unfortunately is going to be the same per person. It doesn't matter. It's going to be $140 per person for the whole week for food. Again, maybe you can get that down. You might be able to really bring that down if you're really savvy. But that's going to cost you probably time and as well as possibly some quality in your diet, depending on how you manage it. So there's a food cost there that's inescapable. The other thing, though, that you're probably not thinking about that you will need if you're going to drive to Burning Man and you're going to have your car on the playa, you have to buy a vehicle pass. And it's $140 per vehicle. It's pretty steep, but then again, they kind of want to discourage people driving their cars onto the playa as much as possible. And there are a lot of costs associated with having vehicles driven onto the playa. So it needs to be kind of steep. Now, if you've got two people, you have your passenger share the burden of the cost of that vehicle pass, because hey, you're getting them on the playa too. It's definitely a communal effort there, driving across the country, and you're getting their stuff onto the playa for them as well. So this is another part of the cost of driving a vehicle across the country that you'll have to factor in, but that's one you can share with your passenger. So let's look at the rest of it. We've got 5 nights in hotels, $300 or $150 if you're sharing the room. And then gas, best case scenario, most optimistic, you're looking at around $350 or $175 if you're sharing it. So how does that come out? Boop. If you're just going by yourself, it's going to cost you $930, close to $1,000 just to drive across the country. Plus the wear and tear on your vehicle, plus some other things that haven't even gotten to talking to about yet. So driving across the country by yourself is pretty much not an option, especially even if you have the really fuel efficient vehicle. It's going to be cost prohibitive. It's going to be really unsafe, especially because of the long hours you're going to be pulling. It's a bad, no bueno idea. If you've got a passenger, just one other passenger is all it takes, then all of a sudden this becomes pretty much right on par with the experience of flying and taking the Burner Express bus. The catch is, again, this driving across country is going to take an extra 5 days over the flying and Burner Express bus. If you're flying in Burner Express bus and it's 1 day to get there and 1 day to get back, and it's actually even less than that. It's like a half a day to get there and back. But you know, once you add all the hassle of everything up, it might as well be a whole day lost for the there and back. Here you need a whole extra 5 days for the there and backing. So yeah, this costs a little bit more than this, but it's easier. The pain and suffering portion of it is greatly compressed. The catch to this is that, you know, especially in a year like 2021, where the event might be canceled again, if you're buying your plane ticket, it's going to be non-refundable, regardless of whether Burning Man happens or not. It's going to be a sunk cost. If you having to wait till the last minute to know whether or not you're going because of things, then driving with a passenger can be a reasonable way to navigate around the risk of losing money due to the event being canceled. All that said, there's one last thing we have to take into consideration, and damned if I didn't close my pictures. So let me go find that picture real quick, and I reckon I will have to do a little bit of photo editing or video editing. There we go. There we are. There I am. This is my rental car. You see how dusty it is? That's how your car is going to look when it comes off the playa. And you're going to have to clean it. And no matter what you do, there's still going to be playa dust left on your car. So what's the playa dust going to do? One, it's really fine. It gets everywhere in the inside of the car, the interior, as well as in the engine, up underneath the car, in the suspension. And that really fine particle dust will basically just become a part of the sandpaper that is gradually wearing down the moving parts of your vehicle. It's one of the things the playa dust is going to do. There are going to be places it's going to get into, and you're not going to be able to get it out, period. It's just going to be there, unless like the actual vehicle parts are completely replaced. So it's going to be playa dust up in your car. It's going to physically erode the moving parts of the car for sure, but also because the playa dust is really alkaline, it's going to be corrosive to your vehicle, and gradually over time it's going to corrode your car as well, and corrode the parts that it's left in contact with. There's a lot you can do to help neutralize that. Vinegar neutralizes the playa dust. You will have to wipe down every surface of your vehicle and spray down all your upholstery, etc. You'll have to open up your engine, and basically every bit of your engine you can get your hands on, literally, that you can get your hands on, you'll have to wipe it down, spray it down with vinegar to clean away and neutralize the playa dust. And all that's doable. It takes time. It takes like 4, 5, 6 hours. I think this car took about 3 hours for me and somebody else to detail when we got down to doing it. Um, but it is doable. But the thing you need to keep in mind is that even after you've taken the car on the Playa and after you've gotten it off and you've done this super fancy detailing job on it, it's still going to, being on the Playa is going to age the car. It's going to accelerate the aging of the vehicle because there are going to be places again where it's not going to be possible to clean it out. And so there's extra wear and tear on your vehicle that this trip to the Playa is going to cost you. So to that end, what I will say is that if you are going to drive to the Playa and back um, in your vehicle, I would not take a new vehicle. My Mini has 5 years, is 5 years old, and it's got 100,000 miles on it. That is not a car I would take to the Playa. That is still a new car. It still feels like a new car to me. It still drives like a new car to me. 10 years old, 150, 200,000 miles, then yeah, that started getting towards the age of a vehicle, the wear of a vehicle that, if you feel it's safe to drive across the country, it would also be okay to drive onto the Playa. Because at that point, most of its life is now behind it, instead of still having a good chunk of its life ahead of it. See how that works? So from a cost standpoint, driving across the Playa might seem appealing, but it's going to be about $600 to fly and take a burner express bus. It's going to be about $550, maybe more if you have a less fuel efficient vehicle, maybe less if your less fuel efficient vehicle also allows you to avoid having to stay in hotels as much. Trade-offs there. But yeah, it's going to cost you money. And if you're going to drive across the country, you absolutely have to do it with another person, or it's just simply not cost effective at all. And it takes a lot of time, and it's stressful. I mean, you're going to be driving a fucking car trapped for anywhere from 11 and a half to 13, maybe 14 hours a day, depending on how kind the traffic is to you. So driving is not a wise thing to do. You should avoid it if you can, and probably plan on just flying and taking the Burner Express bus or getting some other way of getting hooked up with getting onto and off the Playa from Reno. Yeah, there you go. That's all I have to say on this topic. It took me 3 tries to get this right. Yeah, the things I do for you. Alrighty. Boom.